good, all you beautiful people out there? How y'all doing today? That is fantastic. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Double Diesel Sports podcast where we talk everything National Football League, in season, off season, it doesn't matter because it's football. I'm your host, Double Diesel, and welcome to the show, recapping Thanksgiving weekend of the NFL season, week 12 officially of the 2022 NFL season. For those of you who are new here, I have a couple things I want to talk about real quick before we continue with the podcast, and that is, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share this content if you in fact enjoy it. There we go. Really helps boost my exposure, gets me out there to more viewers, helps us out in the algorithm a little bit. So if you could do that, that would mean the absolute world. Also, if you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter at DDS_pod. And if you haven't already, please go support me on my Patreon if you'd like to at patreon.com/DoubleDieselSports. There you can get exclusive content such as my weekly NFL predictions, my weekly picks, and also my draft content some of my draft content that I do in the offseason, which I'm looking forward to starting fairly soon because the college football regular season is coming to a close. So I'm going to get a start on that fairly soon, and I'm really excited for that. And if you feel like that's something you might enjoy, it'll be some of it, such as my draft board, will be on Patreon available to you. So if you like, you can go support me there. Or you don't have to. You don't have to do any of the things I told you to do. It would just mean the absolute world if you could. In fact, just the fact that you're taking the time out of your day to watch me makes me feel so much better and gives me so much more passion to continue doing this. So thank you all so much. But let's continue on with the show. So, week 12 is officially in the books, and we're now starting to get into the point of the NFL season where we're starting to get a feel of where certain teams are, what the playoffs look like they're shaking out to be, who's the legitimate contenders, who are teams that could just make a playoff run and then not really be serious contenders. And the week started with Thanksgiving Day. On Thursday, we had 3 games, and it was the first time really in a long time, at least as far as I've been a football fan, where all 3 games have been really exciting and really fun to watch for the most part, both leading into the game and during and after the games. I'm going to talk about them. I'm not going to go super in-depth into all 3 of those games because there is a lot I want to talk about in the show today. So I'm just going to go through it, each game and each team that played on Thanksgiving very briefly. Just give my thoughts on the game and also just give my thoughts on the team and what they could potentially look like moving forward. And that first starts off with the Buffalo Bills against the Detroit Lions. Detroit gave them a scare, man. I had a feeling that this was a potential upset game, potentially, and it nearly happened. The Buffalo Bills escaped this game by the skin of their chinny chin chin, and It was a hard-fought game for Buffalo, but they were able to pull out in the end. I will say Buffalo, they have gotten they're getting Tre'Davious White back soon, but it doesn't matter because the injuries are continuing to just pile up on this defense. Von Miller got injured in this game. He's going to be out for a while, and this Bills team does not look like the best team in football that I said they looked like. The first half of the season. They still look like a great football team, just not the hands-down Super Bowl favorite that they once were. But a lot of credit, I feel like, goes to the Detroit Lions in this game. This was a game that they were 9.5-point underdogs coming into this per Vegas, and they gave them hell. They gave them absolute hell. Offensively, they did everything they could. Now, defense is still a problem at times. Granted, they were missing their best corner in Jeff Okudah, and they were missing some other key players on their defense for this game. But for the most part, I think the defense gave the Bills and Josh Allen fits at points in the game. And the Lions offense, even after trading TJ Hawkinson, has still been able to move the ball and put up points consistently. And also, they're getting Jameson Williams back, I think, this upcoming week for Week 13. That's going to be a lot of fun. Just the idea of Jameson Williams finally playing for this team. Oh, dear God, this is going to be so fun to watch, and I cannot wait to see it. But, yeah, even though the result was Buffalo winning and Detroit losing, I feel like I would feel better about the Lions coming out of this game than I did about the Buffalo Bills in terms of their expectations moving forward. Now, I still think the Bills can legitimately compete for a Super Bowl, and I don't think the Lions are good enough to make a deep playoff run, at least not right now. We'll see when they get Jameson Williams. But I would feel more about the Lions coming out of this game than I do about Buffalo, personally. Next game is on Thanksgiving was the Giants and the Cowboys. Fun game for the first half, and then the second half happened, and then Dallas just completely ran away with it. Yeah, man, the Cowboys are legit. The Cowboys are a legit football team. I mean, we've all known this. We've been known this. Another thing I've been known, and I think some people are just now coming around to, and I think the Cowboys are coming around to, that Tony Pollard should be getting the football more. I've been screaming for the past 3 years that he should be the number one back over Zeke Elliott, and it seems like that tide's starting to turn a little bit, so that's really fun to see. We still have yet to see what comes of the Odell sweepstakes yet. It's rumored that the Cowboys are the betting favorite to land Odell. We will see. We're not entirely sure yet. But if that does happen, he could definitely be the missing piece to push this team over the top because they have talent on offense. They have the defense for it. Micah Parsons is, I've said this before, Micah Parsons is the closest thing to Lawrence Taylor I think we can get in our generation. Now, I'm not saying he is Lawrence Taylor because I don't think anyone's ever going to be that dominant, but he's pretty damn close to it. And so that's my thoughts on the Cowboys. As far as the Giants, look, they have a winning record right now, and they've won a lot of tough games they shouldn't have won. And I think the magic is starting to run out a little bit. This team is really well coached by Brian Daboll, and that's what's going to allow them to compete. But yeah, man, they've just been battling injuries lately, and their offense isn't as good as you'd hope it to be, especially not considering what it was at the start of the year. Now, they weren't like this high-flying power offense to start the year, but they were still good enough to consistently put up points when need be. And they kind of haven't been doing that in recent weeks. So I think the train's starting to lose a little bit of fuel. I think because of the way the NFC is right now, I think they'll still find a way to make the postseason. But as far as making a run in the postseason, I don't entirely see that happening right now. So yeah, that's my quick thoughts on those. And then the final game on Thanksgiving that I just want to talk about real briefly was the Patriots against the Minnesota Vikings. Same thing. This was a really fun game for the first 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter happened, and Minnesota just took over. Now, this wasn't a blowout in the fourth quarter by any means necessary. This wasn't a blowout at all. This was a competitive, kind of a shootout game. I say kind of a shootout, but yeah. I want to talk about the Vikings first because I feel like no one in the media ever talks about the Minnesota Vikings. They are a legit Super Bowl contender in my eyes. Justin Jefferson is unguardable. He broke his record over Thanksgiving weekend as far as hitting the 4,000 receiver yard mark, I think, in his first 3 years. I think that's what the stat was, if I'm not mistaken. But a record held by a former Minnesota Viking, Randy Moss, and it makes sense. He is the closest thing to Randy Moss I've ever seen. And I don't think anyone's ever seen a receiver take over a game the way Justin Jefferson has since Randy Moss. And we've seen it in the Buffalo game. We saw it this game where everyone knew he was the guy, and Belichick is known for taking away your best option. And I guess they had a game plan for Justin Jefferson, and it did not work. I've never seen a receiver that anytime you throw it anywhere in this general vicinity, he's going to find a way to come down with the football. I've never seen anything like it. He is a once-in-a-generation type of talent that I don't know when the next time we'll ever see someone like him again. And it's been a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And the Vikings, I think they're starting to get good. Defense is still suspect. But Kirk Cousins has actually played good football this year. I know we were walking to a primetime game and saying, oh, God, Kirk Cousins on primetime. Oh, dear Lord, here we go again. But no, he played his ass off on Thanksgiving. And, yeah, man, this is a team that I think is going to be a force to be reckoned with come January. Now, as far as the New England Patriots go, this was easily the offense's best game. This was easily Mac Jones's best game of the year. He played great in this game. Like, you could not have asked this offense to play any better than they could. The problem with this team is that they're kind of inconsistent. Like, on days where the defense is really good, the offense isn't. And when the days of the offense is really good, the defense can't really hold their end of the bargain. And that's kind of what the story was of this game. The Patriots defense they didn't have an answer for Justin Jefferson, which, granted, I'm not going to hold them super up to that because it's Justin Jefferson, but it definitely is concerning, and I think that inconsistent, if they can find that healthy balance, I have confidence that their defense isn't going to be that bad every single game, even though they are playing a tougher schedule for the remainder of the regular season. But if they could just find that healthy balance, I do think this team is good enough to make a postseason run. If we get that offense that I think is starting to finally get some rhythm going and they're finally able to get some confidence in it, and Mac Jones is finally looking like the guy that we thought he was out of his rookie year. So I do think this team is still a good enough team to make the postseason. Now, as far as making a run in the postseason is a different story. But yeah, and also that was a touchdown for Hunter Henry that should have been on the board, but was taken off. It's a stupid rule. I don't know why it's still a problem in 2022. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, I just wanted to go over the Thanksgiving Day games just very quickly because we do have a lot to talk about in the show today. And now we're going to head to the Sunday games. And the first thing I want to start off with is a game that you probably are not expecting me to. It's a team that I've said in the past that I kind of don't want to talk about anymore, but I feel like I now kind of have to. The Denver Broncos against the Carolina Panthers. Now, I want to start off positive. I want to talk about the Panthers first because this team we know they're a bad football team, but they're hard to gauge still. It's like, I don't know if they're a bad football team as in like they're just not competitive, or they're a bad football team where it's like they are feisty as shit. I can't really tell at times. It varies week to week. So, but yeah, they played a really good football game. I don't want to take anything away from them. I'm not going to get on the Sam Darnold hype train. I will not, even though he did play fairly well in this game against a really good Broncos defense that, granted, has fallen off the past couple of weeks, but still it's a good defense nonetheless. So I just wanted to say that very quickly before I get into the real talking point of this game. What do you do if you're, I don't even know their names, the new owners of the Broncos? My apologies for not even knowing their names. But they are in a situation where they bought a football team that had already hired a head coach prior to buying the team, and had already traded a king's ransom and gave it a fucking giant contract to Russell Wilson. They inherited that. They did not do that when they were the owners of the team. They inherited that. So what's going through their mind at the moment when they see both those things that were hyped to the moon as the two things that were going to turn this franchise around and make this a Super Bowl contending team? And yet they are the two biggest reasons as to why this team is one of the worst teams in football right now. What do you do in that situation? Because I kind of feel bad for them because they're now stuck in this situation where, I mean, you can fire Nathaniel Hackett. That's easy. The Russ contract and the Russ situation is a completely different monster. And that's kind of what I want to talk about because I'm sure everyone's seen it. Everybody has seen this, I feel like, by this point. Was Broncos backup defensive tackle, Mike Purcell, walking towards the sideline, and Russ was right there, and I don't know if Russ said anything or what, but the video showed of Mike Purcell clearly, immediately, as he's walking past Russ, turn around and then go straight to Russ and start yelling at him. Now, what exactly he said, I'm not sure. No one knows for sure. But that is alarming. And it kind of sums up. I think we got a little bit of a glimpse inside what that locker room truly thinks about Russell Wilson. Because Mike Purcell is not like a captain of this team. He's not a star player or starter in this team. He's a backup defensive tackle. And if he felt the need to go up to their $245 million quarterback that, like I said, they just traded the fucking future of the franchise for, and start yelling at him or cussing him out or whatever he said, that's probably going to be the reflection of what the majority of the guys on the defense and in that locker room period think. This season, I saw somewhere that said, like, if Russell Wilson was viewed as a future Hall of Fame quarterback, this season might have just killed that resume ever being completed. And I kind of agree, because Russ has been utterly terrible this year. And it's gotten to the point where, like, at the start of the year, it was funny, but now it's just getting sad, because you see this guy who's so unbelievably talented and has proven that he can win. He can play great. He can be good and win football games at this level. He's done that for a decade in Seattle. And then he comes here to a new franchise, hailed as the savior, the man that was finally going to get this team over the hump. And as a matter of fact, like, I saw Brandon Perna. If you watch this, you probably know who Brandon Perna is of That's Good Sports. Diehard Broncos fan, has been through it all. He's watched the Drew Lock offense. He's watched Paxton Lynch, Trevor Siemian, Joe Flacco, and Mark Sanchez for a hot minute. He's grown up watching Brian Griese, Kyle Orton, Tim Tebow. And yet he said that this Broncos offense is the worst he's ever seen. As a matter of fact, the last time, the Broncos are currently averaging around 14 points per game. 14 points per game. That is the fewest amount of points per game by a Broncos offense. And the last time the Broncos offense had a points per game average that bad, the Broncos were quarterbacked by Brian Griese. 2001. That's how bad that's how bad this offense has been. And this was seen as a team of, like, all right, the problem is, and you get a lot of people or a lot of casual Broncos fans that might look at this and be like, hey, this looks like the Broncos teams or Broncos offenses of the past few years. Why are people acting like this? You're right. This looks like a similar kind of offense in past Broncos teams where they don't look that good and the quarterback's playing bad. The problem is, this was a team that wasn't supposed to be like those other teams. This was a quarterback that wasn't supposed to be playing as bad as those other quarterbacks were. And in fact, he's actually looked worse than Broncos QB's past. He's looked worse than them. And what makes this even worse, it's one thing to be playing bad. It's another thing to basically act like you're kind of going through the motions, both on the field and in press conferences and just in general. We've heard the stories all year of Russ kind of putting on a facade, and it's become more noticeable. He's done this for years in Seattle, but because they were winning all the time, you just kind of, and he was playing great in those wins, that you just kind of ignored it. Now you can't ignore it anymore, and all of a sudden those flaws start becoming more noticeable of, like, hey, he does seem like a robot. He does seem like he's just saying shit just to say it. He does feel like he's just being cheesy. He does feel like he's not being authentic. He does feel like he's not a good leader. He does feel like he's just playing a game, or he's just fucking being whatever the shit. I don't know. I'm running out of things to say, but it's gotten to the point where even if you fire Nathaniel Hackett, I don't know if Russ can be saved at this point because, and you've seen since he's gone to Denver where, remember all those great plays he made in Seattle where he would run out of the pocket and run around, keep the play alive by scrambling and just make these unbelievable plays. He's not doing that anymore, and that's really the reason why they gave him a $245 million contract. And on top of that, he was never that great in structure, even in Seattle. So this year, he's trying to play more in structure, despite the fact that he's not good, and he's never really been that good at playing in structure. And I think that's, based on reports, it's been because he's wanted to be that he's wanted to, I guess, prolong his career, which is fine. But that's not the strength of his game. That's not the reason why people viewed him as a potential future Hall of Famer. That's not the reason why he's been an MVP candidate for so many years. That's not the reason why he was a multi-time Pro Bowler and All-Pro. It's not the reason. I don't know, man. It's just, I feel like everything that has been possible to say about this team has been said, or about Russell Wilson has been said. But as far as the Broncos entirely, you could just see it. This team looks broken. And they are in a constant culture. I think I remember Orlando Franklin, former Bronco, former longtime tackle for the Broncos, said this right like a couple days ago, where he said this team is just locked in a culture of losing. They are stuck in a losing culture, and they were expecting their head coach and their new quarterback to get them out of that losing culture the way that Peyton Manning did when he first arrived in the very same building. Remember that? Remember, like, this was a Broncos team that, yeah, they made the playoffs the year before, but this was still not a good football team. This was still a team that had little to no playoff experience, despite that one fluky run in the postseason where even then they were still a bad football team that lucked their way into winning their division because the rest of their division was shit. So that was a team that did not have any sort of winning culture, and yet the second Peyton Manning walked in through the door, everyone in that building felt, we can win a Super Bowl. The second he walked in. You know why? Because one, he's Peyton frickin' Manning, and two, he came in with the attitude of like, all right, this is what we need to do. If we want to reach our potential, we want to be successful, and we want to make the playoffs, and we want to win a championship, this is what we need to do. And guess what? He fucking made him do it, and he got him to do it, and everyone bought in, and they all believed him. And what? They made the fucking playoffs all 4 years he was there, Super Bowl appearances twice, won championship, and I think they're the number one seed, like, I want to say 3 out of the 4 years he was there. This was a team that had no playoff experiences, little to none of it. The second he walks in the door, it completely changes. They were expecting Russell Wilson to do that. And why wouldn't they? This is a man that's won constantly for a decade in Seattle, a team that also had next to nothing when he got there, and came in, and all of a sudden he was kind of a difference maker, and he turned into one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And they expected him to do the same thing that Peyton did. The problem is, he has shown he's not even half of the leader that Peyton Manning was. Not even a quarter of it. And I think, and Marshawn Lynch said it best, like, if I can't even contact you directly, that's a problem. And you're the quarterback of the team, that's a problem. So, yeah, this team just is stuck in a culture of losing, and no one's getting them out of it. It's a culture of the second something goes wrong, it just completely implodes on itself. And the two guys that were expected to bring them out of it are actually making it worse. So that's all I got to say on the Denver Broncos. Season's done. I think if Nathaniel Hackett gets out of this year with a job, I'll be shocked. But even if they fire Nathaniel Hackett, the Russell Wilson problem is such a huge problem that it's going to hurt this team. They're going to get, like, the Seattle Seahawks are about to get a top 5 pick in next year's draft, and it's not even going to be their own. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the year? So, and that's what makes this worse. It's the trade that makes this worse. The trade compacted with the contract that has solidified this as one of, if not the worst trade in NFL history. It is probably the Herschel Walker trade 2.0. Because how many did they give up? What was it? 2 first-round picks? 3 first-round picks for Russell Wilson? Man, oh man. And this team with that contract too, I feel like this team just completely crippled itself. And I think they're just going to be stuck in this realm unless they get a new head coach and for some reason that just Russell Wilson just gets a new fucking look on life or some shit. And then that turns it around. I don't know. But based on what we've seen of Russ this year and what we've heard of Russ in the past, it doesn't seem like that's going to change. So, yeah, my condolences to Broncos fans, but that's all I got to say on that. Next, I want to talk about another team that was dealing with another Wilson quarterback problem, but have seemed to have corrected it in a different way. The Chicago Bears against the New York Jets. I'm not going to talk about the Bears because they didn't have Justin Fields and they were injured as shit, and I didn't expect them to win this game. And I expected the Jets to win this game in a blowout, and they did. So, the Jets, this is a team that is ready to win a championship. And I was traveling all last week, so I didn't have the chance to talk about this, even though I really wanted to, on the podcast. So I'll just talk about it a little bit in this segment about Zach Wilson. I don't imagine Zach Wilson's I can't imagine he's going to play another game as a New York Jet, at least not for this year. He has been, to say that he's been terrible at the NFL level is an understatement. And it's another thing where it's just so sad because he was a guy that I thought was in the 2021 draft. If Trevor Lawrence was the undisputed number 1 quarterback in that class. If Trevor Lawrence was QB1, then Zach Wilson was QB1A in my eyes. He was that good at BYU because he had all the things you look for. He had the athleticism, he had the talent, obviously, and he also showed on film he had the football IQ to back it up. He had the pocket presence that was NFL ready. He had the accuracy that was NFL ready. Everything he displayed was that he was a football junkie, and I thought he is going to be fucking great at this level no matter who he goes to. And he went to the Jets, and I'm like, hey, man, it's the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but this could be a really good guy if you develop him right. And I had all the faith in the world. You know, you got a rookie head coach in Robert Saleh, who I really liked when they hired him. And I was like, all right, this is going to be really good. First year, we'll see. But I think in years to come, I think he had the upside of someone like a Patrick Mahomes for sure. If we're talking talent, he had that upside. And rookie year goes by, doesn't play well, which, hey, some guys play well in their rookie year, some guys don't. It happens. And he was on a bad Jets team. It happens. Coming into year 2, the goal of this year was to, all right, let's develop him properly. Because the plan is you draft a young quarterback like Zach Wilson, you develop him, and then he sort of grows as the team grows, because the team is not good as well. So he grows along with the team, and then towards the end of his rookie deal, you have a really good football team that can compete. The problem, well, it's not a problem if you're a Jets fan, but the problem for Zach Wilson was he was growing slowly to the original plan, but the team got really fucking good out of nowhere. Like, Robert Saleh, he is proving every bit that he was worth hiring as the New York Jets head coach. He's done a stellar job. This defense is the best defense in the NFL. They've been lights out. Every single guy on that defense has been playing out of their mind. They have great playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Breece Hall got hurt early in the year. He's out for the year. Elijah Vera Tucker. They have a lot of injuries to great players on that offense, but even then, they still got Garrett Wilson, their rookie first-round pick, who's looked incredible. Elijah Moore can be a good player when you get him the football, and they still have CJ Uzama. There we go. From Cincinnati. They haven't used him a lot, but when he gets the football, he is an impact player. Michael Carter's still a good back. This is a good football team that has pieces to compete right now, and they've showed that they can compete right now. Everyone except for the man in number 2. I don't know if he's felt the pressure of trying to grow as fast with the team, because the team has grown a lot faster than I think even the organization was expecting to. But the problem is he's not even growing. He's in fact, in some cases, he's actually regressing. Like, he still has the talent, obviously, but his accuracy is not that good. His processing isn't all of a sudden good. The two things that I really liked about him were his processing and his he didn't have great processing at BYU, but he still had good enough processing where it's like, hey, if he can get even better at it, then oh my God. And that seemed to have regressed. And now all of a sudden he doesn't have confidence to make even the basic throw. Like, everyone's blaming Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, and he's been okay, not great, but you kind of feel bad for him, because how do you expect him to call plays for a quarterback who can't even complete a ball accurately on a screen pass? Like, there was a couple of games in that New England game where he was throwing a screen pass and he skied it over the receiver's head. He skied a screen pass like 5 yards over Braxton Berrios' head. It was behind the line of scrimmage. And then the whole thing of him not taking accountability and saying that he didn't let the defense down, what he clearly did, and considering what his career has been up to this point and how he played in that New England game, for him to say that he didn't let his defense down, that was writing on the wall of, yeah, this guy he's not this team's quarterback. From a talent perspective now, on a production standpoint, and now from a character standpoint, it's like, this man is not fit to be this team's franchise quarterback. Even if he makes a redemption and he plays like a good quarterback, I still don't feel him as with the upside that I expected him to hit. Not even close to it. And Robert Saleh saw that, because the day it happened, he went from, no, we're not making a change of quarterback, and he left. Zach Wilson came in, did his presser, said that statement, said the no comment, and then the day later, Robert Saleh completely changed its tune of like, we're not committing to Zach Wilson. We're going to evaluate the tape, and we're going to see what happens. And that's how we got Mike White starting in this game. Every Jet fan knows the legend of Mike White. And he came in and he played really freaking good, man. All of a sudden, this team offensively were getting it going. They were making the plays. Defense is still as great as you would hope it to be. But yeah, man, this team, if they can get stable quarterback play, because that's really all this team needs. This team is good enough to make a playoff run. They just need decent quarterback play, and they'll be winning a lot of games. I mean, Zach Wilson was playing like a terrible quarterback in the games he was starting, and yet they were still winning games. This, in spite of Zach Wilson's play, they were still winning games. So they just need Mike White, not to be this world beater, but they just need Mike White to just be a good quarterback, just be a decent quarterback, and let the defense do the rest, and they're going to win football games. So, New York Jets fans, I would feel optimistic right about now if I was a Jets fan, because they have been, all of a sudden now, you're starting to get a little bit more stability, or hope of stability moving forward. So I know I didn't talk about the Jets from this week. I talked about it a little bit, but I missed out on last week, so I wanted to just give my thoughts on all that, and I felt like with this week. It's necessary. Also, I thought it was interesting. Zach Wilson wasn't even just the backup. He was inactive. They didn't ask him to dress. So I think that's a telling sign that shows that he's probably not going to see the field as the New York Jets starting quarterback for the rest of the year, in my eyes. And maybe even for the future. We don't know yet. But, yeah. I think if he doesn't play the rest of the year, which I don't think he will, then yes, I do think it's time to put, even though it's only been 2 years, to put the bust label on Zach Wilson, unless he just has this amazing Tua-esque turnaround in year 3. But I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity because he's had a lot of opportunities to grow, and he has the weapons. Like with Tua, you had the excuse of, all right, he didn't have the greatest weapons. Yeah, he had Jalen Waddle in year 2, but he didn't have the greatest weapons or the greatest supporting cast, and he had a head coach who didn't support him. Zach Wilson doesn't have that situation. He has a great supporting cast. He's on a great team. He has a head coach that clearly supported him up until the no comment. So I think that's telling that he's not going to be this team's quarterback in the near future. So we'll see on that. I don't have a crystal ball, head coaching stereotype there. But, yeah, I don't think he's going to be the quarterback, at least for the remainder of this year. Now, I want to talk about a game that was really fun to watch, and brought back some narratives that happened early in the season. And that is the Baltimore Ravens against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want to talk about the Jaguars first because what a win for them. They're 4-7 now. I don't think they're going to make a postseason run. Not a shot in hell. But this was Trevor Lawrence's here the fuck I am moment. That final drive of the game where he led the Jaguars and down the field on the 2-minute drill, scored the touchdown, got the 2-point conversion to give the Jaguars the lead and eventually win the game. This was Trevor Lawrence's here the fuck I am moment. We all knew that even though he wasn't playing the greatest and they weren't winning a ton of games, we all knew, like, hey, Trevor Lawrence, he's still this team's franchise quarterback. And this game proved it once and for all. Like, yeah, man, just give me some more talent, give me a little more help on the offensive line, and we're going to fucking rock, man. So, yeah, this was his game to show to the league, like, yeah, man, I'm here. And once I get a little more help and once this team grows a little more, we can be something. And I gave a lot of praise to this Jags team early in the year because they looked like a really well-coached football team. They've kind of fell off since then. But they've still been feisty at points, and Trevor Lawrence has looked really good at times. Obviously, in this game, he looked really good. And I just wanted to talk about that a little briefly because I didn't want to take any credit away from them because they played exceptional, especially late in that game. So, really fun game. I don't think it has any implications on their playoff chances at all, but it was still a fun game for them nonetheless. Now, as far as for the Baltimore Ravens, this brought back the narrative that I thought they had gotten rid of after week 7, and that is the Ravens of the first 5 weeks reared their ugly head again, where they played really good first 3 quarters, had a huge double-digit lead, and then the fourth quarter rolls around and they just straight up give the game away. Like, they were up, I want to say, 9 points. They got stalled out a couple drives in the first quarter. The Jags came down, scored a touchdown. They got pinned deep. The Ravens did in their own territory. And Gus Edwards just straight up coughed up the football right in the red zone. Now, the defense was able to hold the Jags to 3 points. But still, it was that play where you're just like, oh, no. They're back. Oh, no. That Ravens team is back. And it's frustrating because the Ravens have an easy schedule for the remainder of the year. But even then, you still don't have a lot of confidence in them. And I think this game kind of took all the idea of taking this team seriously come January and just kind of threw it out the window. I don't view this team as a threat because they have shown, and it looks like they're now back to, at least for this week, that team of they get up big, they play really well, and then they just let their foot off the gas. And I think, and that's going to cost this team come January, assuming they even make the playoffs come January. I don't even think they're going to make the division right now. The Bengals, who are their really only rival, the Bengals have a tougher schedule, much tougher schedule than the Ravens do from this point on. And yet I think the Bengals are in a better position to win the division than the Ravens are. I think they're the clear better team at the moment than the Ravens. So, yeah, man, the Ravens are... It's just... It sucks, man, because they're back to being their inconsistent selves, and I don't... it sucks because you know this team can be so much better. You know this team can be better, but it's just they keep getting in their own way constantly. So I want to touch on that just a little bit. Another game I want to talk about. This a lot better of a game than I thought it was going to be going into it. The Raiders beating, yes, the Raiders winning a football game over the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle in overtime, in a game which the offense put up 40 fucking points. Now, better late than never, I guess. But Las Vegas, where the fuck was this at the start of the year? Where was this at the start of the year? Why is all of a sudden, when you're fucking 3-7, now all of a sudden you want to be good? Like, when the season is all but lost, why do you all of a sudden now want to be good? But here's the thing, now. I want to be positive because there are some positive things here. Josh Jacobs is a him. He is a certified him. He is making the Raiders look stupid for not picking up his fifth-year option. He is a certified him. He single-handedly won this game for the Raiders offense, it felt like. Derek Carr was, again, fine. Devontae Adams made some big plays. He had a great catch down the sideline where he had his arm completely wrapped up, and he just caught it basically with his arm and his shoulder pad. It was incredible. The defense is still bad. The Raiders' defense is still bad. Both these teams' defenses are still really bad, and that's why the Seahawks, who I still think are going to probably win this division and make the playoffs, their defense is going to hold them back. But yeah, as far as for the Raiders go, like I said, as far as the offense getting good, better late than never. But it does feel like they are 4-7 now, and it does feel like in an AFC that is as loaded as it is, it's felt like it's too little too late in my eyes. Now, as for the Seattle Seahawks, again, man, the defense has kind of been a problem for them all year, where they've had some spurts, they've had some really good moments, they've had some big plays, but for the most part, this is still not a good defense whatsoever. But the offense is still really good. Tyler Lockett had a great game. Geno's still playing really well. Kenneth Walker is a fucking animal. Kenneth Walker is a fucking holy shit. I think he's already established himself as a top 10 back in my eyes. But, yeah, he's a beast. I have no problems. I have no concerns about the Seahawks offense going forward. If they make the playoffs, which I do think they are good enough to make the playoffs, then I think they are at risk of going one and done because that defense is as piss poor as it is. So yeah, I just want to talk about that because it was not a weird game, but it was just kind of funny considering it was both reestablishing known narratives and also correcting a narrative that we thought was the common theme, and then all of a sudden just got flipped out of nowhere, but it might have been too late for it to be flipped. A couple more quick things that I want to discuss. One of them, I don't want to talk about this game in particular. I want to talk about one team from this game. The Rams and the Chiefs. A game that I guarantee the schedule makers, and you can't blame the schedule makers for this because everyone thought that this was going to be a great game this late in the year, but it was the opposite. First, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are still the Kansas City Chiefs. It is what it is. They're still the best. They're still the best team in football. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this game was because it's brought up something that I've had an issue with, because a lot of people have the mindset, both people in the league and fans of this league, and also for the NBA as well, that of people trying to sell out to try and get a championship right now as opposed to building a team that can compete for the future. The Rams have been the poster child for this. They have been basically the founders of the phrase "F them picks." Fuck them picks. You want a first round pick, you can have them. They're worthless to us. But did you know that the Los Angeles Rams have not had a first round pick since 2016? Did you know this? And I don't think they're going to have another first round pick until 2024. So, yeah, which if that's the case, then that means they're going on 8 straight years without having a first round pick, without having a single pick on the first day of the draft. And they have become and thank God, because they won a Super Bowl last year, and thank God for that. But look at them now. And this is why I've always sort of been heavily against the idea of trading away your future to try and win now. Because I've always been in the mindset of I would rather build a team good enough to compete for a championship for the next 5 to 10 years than sell the future and win a championship now, but suck for the next 10. So that has never really made sense to me, but we live in a sports world where everyone just wants to win a championship now, and they're like, hey, forget about the future. We don't care about the future. We want to win one now, which, hey, I don't entirely blame you, but is it, in the long term, is it really worth it? I guess for some people it's going to be like, yeah, you got a championship, but at what cost? And the Rams have become the poster child of why I feel like you shouldn't, if you're an organization, you shouldn't take that approach. Because this was a team that we thought was going to threaten to make a repeat, and they have just completely fallen off a cliff. They have looked legitimately like one of the 10, if not one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL right now. And it's just so unbelievably sad how quickly it changed. They were at the top of the world, so now they're at the fucking bottom of it. And there's no way for them to get out of it. So it's a cautionary tale of, do you want to really fuck them picks and say, let's go all in and win one now, knowing that we're going to suck? And that's the problem, is because a lot of people do that approach with the idea of, we don't care about the future because we're not in the future yet. But once you are in the future, you're going to regret doing it, because you're going to be like, shit, we shouldn't have traded all those firsts, because now we're terrible. It's the ultimate devil's game in a regard. Like, you trade away your future to try and be successful now because you don't care what's going to happen in the future, because you're not in the future yet, and it doesn't matter because you're just living in the moment. Well, guess what? When you get to that moment, you're going to regret it. And I think the Rams are having buyer's remorse. So I just wanted to talk on that just a little bit. because this team's fall from grace has just been absolutely, it's been a sight to see. It really has. One last thing that I want to talk about. Sunday Night Football, for those of you who are here with me, I do live stream every single Sunday night game during the NFL season here on YouTube. And we were here for Packers-Eagles. And that's what I want to talk about. The last thing I want to talk about today's show, and then we're going to wrap it up. And that is, first I want to talk about the Eagles, because Jesus Christ, they are, I said the Chiefs are the best team in football. If the Chiefs are the best team in football, the Eagles might be the most complete team in football. Every single aspect of their team is good to great. They have a really good defense. I mean, not necessarily in this game, but on most days, they have a really good defense. Jalen Hurts has taken a huge leap up. I've said that countless times. They have one of the best receiving rooms in the NFL. Their running game is... Obviously, their running game on Sunday night was just holy shit. The Packers could not do a goddamn thing to stop the run. And Jalen Hurts just has been playing out of his mind. He played out of his mind this game. He's been playing out of his mind all year. They are rivaling the Kansas City Chiefs of being the best team in football and being favorites to come out of the NFC. They've been that great this year. So I feel like there's really nothing else to say about the Philadelphia Eagles. There's really nothing else to say other than they are a great football team. And they are, in my eyes, the best team in the NFC. Now, as far as the Packers go, this was hyped up in the building as a must-win game for them. That basically every single game from this point on for the Green Bay Packers is a playoff game. You lose one game, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. So this was a must-win game for them, and they fought their asses off. They tried, but they lost. And the main reason they did lose was because of their defense. How Joe Barry still has a job after this game, I have no fucking clue. It's just really, really depressing, because this is a defense that I've said countless times over and over that this is a defense on paper that should be one of the top 10 best in the league. And yet, here we are, and like, you watch that game, everyone knew, like, they're going to run the football. They've been running the football down your throat all fucking night. You know they're going to run the football. Everyone seemed to know that, except for Joe Barry. Because I remember how many times did they come out when the Eagles would come out on fucking 3rd and short, on a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1 situation, knowing full well they're going to fucking run the ball because they've been running the fucking football all night. And the Packers come out in fucking base cover 3. Like, on 3rd and 2. So It doesn't make a fucking lick of sense what... I mean, I don't know why he has a job. Was he the defensive coordinator on that '08 Lions team? So how he's here, it doesn't make sense. But this is a defense that I've said should be much, much better than it is. And they're getting fucked over because their defensive coordinator is a fucking idiot. So, and they're not going to fire him. That's the sad thing, is because we've seen this theme where, like, this Packers front office is ridiculously stubborn, and where they refuse to make moves. They don't want to make anything significant that they know will help the team, and they just straight up don't want to. They give off the idea of like, oh no, we tried to do it. We tried to do it, but we just we couldn't get it done. No fucking bullshit. You didn't fucking try. And everything that is obvious to them, that is staring them right in the face, they just blatantly ignore it and say, nah, it's fine. Like, they are the epitome of the fucking meme of the dog sitting in the kitchen while everything else is on fire, and he's just like, everything's fine. That's the Packers front office right now in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So that's my little spiel on the defense. Offensively, they played as fucking well as you could have. Aaron Rodgers did get hurt in this game. We knew coming into it he's been playing with a fucked up thumb, with a broken thumb. And in this game, he had a rib injury, and he got sidelined. Now, he did say on the Pat McAfee show that he's going to be playing this week, but they're 4-8, and I don't know. It's if I'm the Packers, I get it. He's a baller. He wants to play for his team, but I feel like it's time to just shut Aaron down for the year, because he's been banged up, and you don't want him to be banged up any more than you would want him to. And I think it's just time to shut him down for the year, because I feel like the hopes of the playoffs are probably lost right now. Because even in a weak NFC, I don't know if this team's good enough to make the postseason at 9-8. I don't know if 9-8 is even going to be good enough to make the postseason. But yeah, it's a matter of why not just shut him down. We saw Jordan Love late in that game. He led a couple really good scoring drives. You were here for the live stream. I got a little hyped for it. Both jokingly, but also kind of like, yeah, fuck yeah, we get to see Jordan Love. And unfortunately, we don't get to see Jordan Love again this week. But, yeah, man, why not? It's like, it's a matter of we're 4-8. Why not just shut Aaron down for the year and see what Jordan Love has? So that way you can know, all right, can we build something with him? Can we maybe dump Aaron Rodgers for Jordan Love? Or can we maybe he can get stuff on tape so we can maybe trade Jordan Love and get something for him in return for a team that might need a quarterback? I'm thinking that it's like the Packers are 4-8. You're not going to win a Super Bowl. This team's not good enough to win a Super Bowl right now. So it's just a matter of why not? Why not? Why not just say, fuck it, and let's just play Jordan Love for the year and shut Aaron down? I don't see this team going anywhere. It can't hurt. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that matter. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be a wrap on the show today. Feels really good to be back after the week I had off. But yeah, thank you all for sitting and enjoying the show. Please like, subscribe, and share the video if you, in fact, enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if I haven't said that already. Maybe I did, and I just didn't realize it. Oh, well. Helps to happen. Helps do it twice as... Fuck me. I don't know what I'm doing. But anyway, please, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share the video. If you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter and go follow me and support me on Patreon if you haven't already. Links to those will be in the description down below. With that being said, I will be back tomorrow for my weekly picks for week 13 of the NFL season. And I will also be back here live on Sunday Night Football next week, and I will be back here the following Wednesday to do the podcast once again, and then the cycle continues. So, with that being said, I'm Double Diesel. Peace.